She slammed the paper against my door so hard it echoed through the street. You're in violation of HOA Code 7B. Your vehicle is unauthorized. Remove it or face legal action. I opened the door slowly, holding back a laugh. Ma'am, that's my driveway. She crossed her arms, her bright pink nails gleaming under the sun. Not according to us, she said, emphasizing us like she ran the government itself. Her name was Patricia, but everyone around here called her HOA Karen. She was the self-proclaimed queen of the neighborhood, ruling over everyone with fake authority and printed notices that looked more official than they were. I'd been living here for 3 months, quietly, peacefully, just working long hours and minding my business. My black SUV parked in the driveway had somehow become the biggest crime in her world. You think you can park that government-looking vehicle here and not get questioned? She sneered. People are talking. We don't need strangers making us look bad. I wanted to tell her that I wasn't just any stranger, that I actually was the government in a way. But I didn't. I just said calmly, "You don't have the authority to order me around, Patricia." Her eyes narrowed. "Oh, we'll see about that." And she stormed off, her heels stabbing into the pavement like angry punctuation marks. That night, I noticed her outside again, this time with 2 men in dark uniforms. They weren't local cops. No badges, no name tags, just radios clipped to their shoulders and belts full of props that looked half convincing. She knocked again, louder this time. "Step out, sir. You're under investigation for unauthorized property usage," one of the fake officers said, flashing a silver emblem that clearly came from eBay. My pulse didn't even rise. "Under whose order?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. Karen smiled behind him. "Mine," she said proudly. "This is a community enforcement action. You've been warned." I could tell they had no clue who they were messing with. One of the men reached for my arm. That's when I let the silence hang. I just stared at his fake badge and then looked him straight in the eye. "You sure you want to do this?" I asked. He hesitated for a split second, but Karen barked, "Do it." He grabbed my wrist. Big mistake. I twisted it just enough to make him let go, then stepped back. "Touch me again," I said quietly, "and you'll be facing more charges than you can spell." Karen gasped. "Are you threatening an officer of the law?" I almost laughed. "An officer of what law exactly? HOA code?" Her face turned red. "You don't belong here. I run this neighborhood." Her voice cracked halfway through the sentence, and for a second, I saw something flicker behind her anger. Fear. Maybe she was realizing this was going wrong. But pride's a funny thing. Once you taste fake power, it's hard to let it go. They backed off that night, muttering threats, and I closed the door like nothing had happened. But I knew this wasn't over. People like Karen never quit. Not until they're exposed. The next morning, I found my car tires slashed. Every single one. A note was taped to the windshield. Last warning. My jaw tightened. Not because of the damage, and I could afford new tires, but because this was now criminal. Later that day, while I was installing a new security camera near the garage, she came out again, shouting across the yard. "Recording me is a privacy violation," she yelled. I didn't even look at her. "Then stop trespassing," I said. She stormed off again, muttering something about calling the State Department. Oh, the irony. At 9 p.m., a police cruiser pulled up outside. This time, real officers. I stepped out calmly, already knowing what was coming. The officer said, "Sir, we received a report that you're impersonating a government official and harassing HOA members." I almost smiled. "Did she give you her name?" "Yes," the officer said. "Patricia, Karen," I interrupted. "That's what everyone calls her." The cop chuckled under his breath. "You know her?" "Unfortunately," I said. "But here's the thing, officer. Before we go any further, you should know who you're talking to." I reached into my pocket, pulled out my wallet, and flipped open the leather case. The gold emblem inside gleamed under the porch light. Attorney General, State of Virginia. The officer's eyes widened slightly. Yes," I said, nodding. "And I think it's time this neighborhood queen learned what real authority looks like." The other officer leaned forward. "Sir, would you like to file a formal complaint?" "Not yet," I said quietly. "Let's give her one last chance to play fair." Behind the curtains across the street, I saw her face, pale, frozen, still pretending to be confident. But I could see her hand shaking as she tried to take another photo of me through the blinds. She still didn't know what was coming. In that moment, I didn't feel anger, just disappointment. Because people like her weren't born cruel. They were made that way by the illusion of control. But illusions end fast when the law steps in. The next move would be hers. I could already tell she wouldn't stop, not after being embarrassed. She'd come back harder, louder, and maybe even more dangerous. And when she did, I'd be ready. The next morning felt heavier than usual. The air was still quiet, like the whole neighborhood was waiting for something to happen. I sipped my coffee on the porch, watching her house across the street. Curtains slightly open. I could see movement, her silhouette pacing back and forth. She was planning something. I could feel it. My phone buzzed. "Unknown number," I answered. "Mr. Smith?" "Yes. This is Officer Daniels from the county precinct. We received another complaint about you. Something about community intimidation?" I sighed. "Let me guess." "Patricia?" A pause. Then a quiet chuckle. "She's been calling us every hour since last night. Don't worry, we know her reputation. But we still have to check things out." "Do what you have to do, officer," I said calmly. "But while you're here, maybe you should also look at the damage she did to my car tires." By noon, the patrol car rolled up again. Karen stood outside her house, hands on hips, pretending to supervise like she was the one who called the shots. When the officer approached her, she instantly switched tones, voice all sweet and polite. "Oh, officer, I'm so relieved you're here. This man is making our community unsafe. He has cameras, he's aggressive." The officer held up a hand. "Ma'am, please step back. We're just here to verify the complaint." Her fake smile twitched. "You don't understand. He's dangerous. He attacked my security team last night." I stepped out then, quietly. "Your security team? You mean the two guys with fake badges?" Her face froze. The officer turned sharply toward her. "Fake badges?" She tried to laugh it off, but her voice cracked. "It was a misunderstanding. They were neighborhood patrol." "Neighborhood patrol doesn't carry weapons," I said, crossing my arms, "or try to arrest people on private property." The officer gave her a look I'd seen many times, the kind that says you're lying. "But I'll let you keep digging your own grave." After they left, she glared at me across the street. Her voice carried even without shouting. "You think you're untouchable because you have money and a fancy title? I'll find a way to remove you. Mark my words." I didn't respond. I just smiled slightly and walked back inside. The thing about power, real power, is that it doesn't need to shout. It just waits quietly until it's time to strike. That evening, I got an email from the HOA board, an official violation notice for unapproved vehicle parking, exterior surveillance installation, and hostile conduct toward management. All 3 charges, all lies, and all signed by her, acting HOA president. I leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly. So she wanted to play it official. Fine, I could play too. I drafted a short reply, attached my state credentials, and ended it with one sentence. "Any further fraudulent documentation will be treated as a criminal act under State Code 47-3. 10 minutes later, I heard shouting outside. Karen was on her phone, pacing again, waving the HOA tablet around like it was a badge. Her voice was trembling now. "He's threatening me. He's dangerous." I stepped onto my porch, phone in hand, calmly recording. "Everything okay, Patricia?" She froze, realizing I had her on camera. "You can't record me," she snapped. "Public space," I said softly. "You're in front of my house." Her face turned white. She stormed off again, muttering curses under her breath. That night, I sent the footage and the false HOA documents to a contact in the State Bureau, not as the Attorney General, but as a concerned citizen. I didn't want to pull rank yet, not until she crossed the line again. And I knew she would, because people like her never stop when they think they've lost. They just find a bigger lie to tell, and the next one would cost her everything. The whole neighborhood woke up to a video clip that looked like a movie. She'd edited it fast, uploaded it faster. In the clip, I was yelling, pushing a man in a dark uniform away from my porch, while a trembling voice claimed to be hers called out, "He attacked me!" The caption screamed, "State official violent, community in danger." Comments popped like popcorn. People shared it before they watched the full thing. Her followers cheered. The angry ones circled like vultures. My phone blew up. Unknown numbers. A dozen messages. Are you okay? Did you really hit someone? We saw the video. I stared at the screen and felt a strange calm. The clip was real footage, but cut. It cut out the second he reached for my arm, the part where I warned him to stop. It cropped and spliced to make me look like the aggressor. A fake narrative built in seconds. That's the new danger, truth edited into a lie. I posted the unedited footage from my camera 12 seconds later. No fanfare, no long explanation. The raw clip showed the fake badge, the man lunging. My warning, him grabbing my wrist and then the shove when he kept going. The thing about real evidence is that it chokes false stories quickly. The views climbed a different way, slow and steady, then exploding as people compared both clips. Who edited this? The neighborhood typed. Patricia did, said one comment with a screenshot of her hands on a tablet. She didn't stop there. At noon, a tow truck rolled up to my driveway with a paper that looked stamped and official. Authorized removal. HOA notice of violation. The driver, a heavy-set guy with a clipboard, read it like gospel. We got orders, he said. We're towing. A small crowd had gathered. Some neighbors wanted to help. Others watched from behind hedges like it was theater. Karen stood at the curb with her phone held high, live streaming, calling me a dangerous gov official. Her smile was sharp, cruel, the kind that meant someone had taught her how to perform outrage. I walked outside slowly. You planning to tow my car? I asked the driver. He pointed at the paper. We have authorization. I reached into my pocket and showed him a printed letter I'd already sent to the HOA board this morning. Cease and desist. Any unauthorized action will be criminally investigated. The driver squinted. This isn't from us. We got the order from the HOA portal. He tapped his phone, calling dispatch. That's when the first twist hit, not the one everyone expected. A teenager from 2 houses down, Malik, pushed through the crowd with a small portable speaker and shouted, "That's not an order. My mom works at the county clerk's office. I just checked. The HOA portal shows no tow request for this address." People leaned in. Karen's smile faltered for a breath. Then she doubled down, louder, angrier. You people don't understand. Her angry push sent an old woman, Mrs. Ellis, stumbling. That changed the tone. Neighbors moved from bystanders to defenders. A neighbor with a pickup parked in front of my SUV and locked his tailgate. The tow driver cursed into his radio. The scene was spiraling the way she wanted. Viral chaos, divided opinions, and a perfect storm to drown out the truth. I stayed calm and filmed everything. My hands didn't shake. Because I had something else ready. A quiet card I hadn't played. I called a friend at the state police. A man I'd worked with on a case 2 years back. I didn't say I'm the attorney general. I said, there's a potentially illegal impersonation and an unauthorized tow in progress at 514 Maple. Can you advise and send someone to secure the scene? He answered, on my way. That line alone sowed panic. People who thought this was a small-town spat suddenly glanced at their watches. While we waited, a new thing happened. Karen's live stream comments turned ugly. Her followers started naming people, digging up small histories, threatening to get them removed. One commenter suggested petitioning for an emergency HOA meeting to vote me out that night. I felt my chest tighten. The stakes were no longer a car or a video. This was turning into a purge. Land and safety were at risk. Then Malik called out, louder this time. Look, he pointed at Karen's tablet. I reflexively moved toward it and saw, on the paused screen, a file name, fake order final v2.mp4. My heart jumped. She had the edited clip open, ready to play over and over during her live stream. Someone in the crowd recorded that screenshot and sent it to every local chat. The tide shifted. The tow driver finally dropped his clipboard. His radio crackled and he muttered something about not wanting to be the guy who towed me over this. The crowd cheered, soft and relieved, but the danger wasn't over. Karen's face went white and she vanished into the house like a person who's been burned, but not retreating. She was recalculating. People who had laughed at her early posts now looked worried, and one by one they began to ask questions out loud. Who else has she lied about? How long has she been doing this? A police cruiser turned into the street. headlights cutting through the afternoon haze. An officer stepped out, his expression serious. He spoke into his radio, then walked toward the group. "We're here to make sure no laws are broken and no one gets hurt," he said. His eyes found Karen's front door. The slamming sound came from inside, not of someone frightened, but of someone shutting herself away from the world she'd tried to control. As the officer talked to witnesses and the tow truck pulled away, I felt the crowd's energy shift toward a new hunger, one for answers. They wanted proof, they wanted consequences, and they wanted their quiet back. Today had stripped away a polish she'd spent years applying, but I also knew she'd come back. The hum of revenge was in her bones. For now, though, I turned my camera off and walked inside. Before I closed the door, Malik handed me a printout someone in the crowd had made. A small HOA ledger page with signatures. My name was not on it, hers was. Right under it, scrawled in a different hand, a note. Temporary acting president until vote. It looked official, but the handwriting suggested it could be forged. That one scrap might be the thread that unravels everything. Or it might be exactly what she'd banked on. Confusion. I set the paper on my kitchen table and sat down. The neighborhood had seen the first real crack in her armor, but the next move would be hers, and I could already hear the engine of the plan revving. This time, I wouldn't just counter her lies. I'd follow the paper trail she left in her rush to win. They thought the day was over. They were wrong. That night, while the streetlights hummed and the neighborhood settled back into late-night chores and porch talks, my phone lit up with an alert. A civil filing against me. Someone had filed an emergency petition with the county court, asking for a temporary injunction to remove me from the property and to suspend my access to neighborhood common areas. The clerk's stamp looked real enough. The file number looked real enough. My stomach dropped the way it does when you see a bluff played at high stakes. I read the petition twice. It claimed I had engaged in threatening behavior, intimidation of HOA members, and unlawful surveillance. It included a printed transcript of my voicemail, edited, clipped and rearranged to sound sinister. Whoever put it together had practiced. Whoever put it together wanted me gone, and fast. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at the kitchen table with the petition under the lamp and the security footage playing on a loop. The camera timestamps and the metadata were clean, original files uncut. Whoever filed the petition didn't have access to my raw files. They had copies. Someone had taken my footage and rewoven it. That meant planning, collusion, and resources. It also meant one more thing, panic. When people panic, they make mistakes. At dawn, I walked over to Mrs. Ellis's house and found her sweeping her porch, nervous like everyone else. "They called me," she said without looking up. "Said if I don't sign, they'll force a public vote and I could lose my yard privileges." Her hands trembled. People were scared. Land matters to them the way air does to birds. I could see that fear in their faces, and it made my jaw harden. I called an emergency meeting with the board, not in the clubhouse, but in my living room. I invited only the neighbors I trusted, the quiet ones who kept their doors open during snow, the single moms, the veteran from 2 houses down, Malik's mother. I didn't wear my badge. I didn't read a bill. I spoke plainly. Someone is weaponizing your community paperwork and your trust. They're filing fake legal documents and editing videos to turn you against me. Don't sign anything until we verify it. A murmur ran through them. But who would do this? Asked Malik's mom. Who benefits? You saw her, I said. People who want control. People who want to decide who stays and who goes. They want to prove they can. I pointed to the petition. This was filed through a shell address. The complaint was mailed from a P.O. box 2 towns over. Whoever did this wanted anonymity. We spent the day collecting every piece of paper, every screenshot, every text. I called an evidence tech from the Attorney General's office, not to arrest anyone, but to run the documents through forensic checks. I tried to keep my role quiet. Fear can be weaponized into martyrdom if it looks like I pulled strings. For now, facts were enough. For now, truth had edges sharp enough to cut. By late afternoon, the tech called. The petition had fingerprints, smudged but there, and a partial print matched a touch on a tablet captured by my front camera 2 days earlier. The tablet had been on Karen's porch the day Malik had taken that screenshot. The print was hers. That should have been the end of it. Instead, she did something predictable and dangerous. She hired an attorney. Not a neighborhood lawyer. A firm with a billboard on the highway and a reputation for fast injunctions and louder press releases. The neighbors started whispering when they saw the first email. Representing Patricia in matters concerning HOA governance. The headline possibilities shifted from a social media spat to a courtroom spectacle. People who had been ready to stand up for truth suddenly looked like they wanted to hide. Fear is contagious like that. That night, Karen's lawyer called me directly. His voice was smooth and thin. "Mr. Reynolds," he said, "we advise you to vacate the premises while legal processes play out. Your presence is a danger to community order." He dropped a line meant to sting. "It would make your case easier if you stepped aside." My answer was short. "This is my home." He paused, then tried again. "State officials should not engage in disputes of this nature. It complicates matters." He didn't know that I had been more careful than he would assume. He didn't know I had preserved every chain of custody, every email, every timestamp. He didn't know my patience was not weakness. After we hung up, I drove to the courthouse and sat in the public lobby until the clerk's office opened. I filed a motion to quash the false petition and requested an emergency evidentiary hearing. I attached the camera metadata, the proof of the tablet print, and a notarized affidavit from Malik, who had seen Karen editing the clip that afternoon. Each document landed like a counterpunch. Each affidavit began to show a pattern. But the biggest twist was waiting at the end of the day. As I walked back to my car, a local TV truck was pulling up. A reporter I'd met once at a ceremony smiled too widely for my taste and asked, "Mr. Reynolds, the tape shows you in a confrontation with HOA members. Do you have anything to say about allegations that you threatened a neighbor?" Behind her, someone handed Karen a cell and she lifted it like a scepter. On the small screen, a live feed showed a message. "An anonymous donor has offered to fund a community meeting to decide Mr. Reynolds' fate." Her smirk was the same one that had pushed an old woman earlier. This was no longer just lies. This was a campaign. I looked at the camera and felt something old in my chest. The quiet discipline of someone who'd stood in front of a line and refused to step back. "I stood up to people who were breaking the law," I said. "I will not be bullied out of my home. If they want a meeting, we'll have one. But it will be fair, public, and recorded." The reporter nodded, already picturing the soundbite. The neighborhood watched. Karen's phone buzzed and her jaw tightened. She had expected panic. She had expected people to fold. Instead, there was anger, and behind that anger, curiosity. Who had funded the anonymous donor? Who had the time and money to run such a campaign? That question would be the next thread to pull. And when I pulled it, I planned to reveal a network, not just a single queen with bad manners. The stakes had widened. This was about property, power, and how easily a lie can become law if you let it. Rain came that night, soft, steady, washing the dust off the driveways and the noise off the street. By morning, the neighborhood looked calm again, but it was the kind of calm you feel before a verdict. Everyone knew the community meeting was happening at 6, and everyone knew it wasn't just about me anymore. It was about her, the HOA, and the truth. They gathered in the clubhouse, about 40 people, some curious, some nervous. Karen sat in front with her lawyer, shoulders back, chin high, pretending the whole thing was routine. But her eyes told a different story. She was tired. The fake confidence that used to fill a room now flickered like a dying light bulb. I walked in quietly, no escort, no badge showing. The lawyer jumped up immediately. "For the record," he said, "Mr. Reynolds' presence here constitutes intimidation." I cut him off. "For the record, counselor, this is a community hearing, not a courtroom. And I'm here as a homeowner." Murmurs rippled across the room. Mrs. Ellis was in the back, holding Malik's arm for support. The veteran, Tom, stood by the window, arms crossed, watching everything. Karen cleared her throat, voice sharp again. "Before we start, I'd like to submit evidence of misconduct. This man—" She reached for her tablet, but before she could tap the screen, the county sheriff stepped through the door. Everyone froze. His uniform gleamed under the fluorescent light, the kind of presence that silences even the loudest people. "Sorry to interrupt," he said. but I need to see Mrs. Patricia Hale for a few questions regarding forged documents and impersonation of law enforcement. Her face drained of color. What? That's ridiculous. Who filed that? I stepped forward, calm as ever. The State Bureau, ma'am. Based on the evidence you uploaded yourself. Her lawyer tried to object, but the sheriff was already holding a warrant. We have verified prints, video proof, and financial records tracing HOA funds used to hire those fake officers. You'll have a chance to explain it downtown. Gasps filled the room. Some people stepped back. Others whispered. Karen stood frozen, still trying to find her words. You don't understand. I was protecting the neighborhood. No, I said softly. You were controlling it. The deputies guided her out, her lawyer stumbling behind, suddenly much quieter. As the door shut, the tension in the room melted into relief. For the first time in months, people were breathing easy. Mrs. Ellis wiped a tear. So it's over? She asked. I nodded. For her, yes. For us, it's a new start. Tom the veteran stepped forward. You really are who they said, huh? Attorney General? I smiled faintly. Yeah, but I didn't move here as the Attorney General. I moved here as a neighbor, and I'm not leaving. There was silence, then applause. Slow, honest, not for me, but for what it meant. They had their community back. Malik lifted his phone and turned the camera toward the group. We should show people the truth for once, he said. And for once, everyone agreed. Later that night, I sat on my porch again. The air smelled like rain and wet pavement. Across the street, her house was dark, sealed by yellow tape. My SUV sat quietly in the driveway, untouched. The camera light blinked red, recording nothing but peace. I thought about the irony of it all. How one person's hunger for control almost destroyed what she claimed to protect. Power without accountability always turns poisonous. But power with purpose? That's justice. I took a long breath and looked up at the night sky. You can't fake law forever, I whispered. A message buzzed on my phone. A short one from the sheriff. Charges confirmed. Case closed. Well done, General. I smiled and set the phone down. Somewhere in the distance, a flag flapped softly in the wind. It wasn't about rank or pride anymore. It was about standing your ground when someone tries to steal it. Because in America, your land, your truth, and your freedom mean something. And if you don't defend them, someone like her will always try to claim them. And tonight, justice finally did what it was meant to do. The end.